Part 54. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 531. Chapter 531. Fuchinexai could understand why Suyuans became like this. He was no different from him at the beginning, but it was impossible for his woman to save Mo Zhangxiang. Don't even think about it. He owed their lives and he would pay them back. Zhang Xiaoxiao was innocent, she knew nothing. As soon as Fu Chen finished his pedicure, the door of the villa was opened, and Zhang Xiaoxiao's small head was exposed. His eyes were full of tears, and his eyes were extremely red. Uncle Wu. Fu Chenexai looked at Zhang Xiaoxiao's appearance, his facial contours were tight and his thin lips pursed into a straight line. Come home with me when you are a child. Zhang Xiao shook his head stubbornly and said in a hoarse voice, Uncle Wu, I won't go back. I owe my sister a life. I want to return it to my sister. I want to save my sister. Fu Chenexai stared at Zhang Shishi with a hint of chill in his cold eyes, and said in a commanding tone, Go back. Uncle Wu, it's our fault. You shouldn't have traded my sister's life for mine. This is wrong. It was wrong from the beginning. You shouldn't have saved me at all at this time. Zhang Xiaoxi shouldn't have. It means that the person at this time is Bai Yueguang. After Zhang Xiaoxiao hung up Fu Chenexai's call, the two had a conversation. During the conversation, Bai Yueguang returned to his body. You are not wrong. It is Uncle Wu who is wrong. If you were obedient and went back with Uncle Wu when you were young, Mo Zhangxiang will not be able to save her. Fu Chenexai pulled the person to his side and wanted to take her away by force. Zhang Xiao struggled and would not leave the villa. Uncle Wu, if I can be saved, don't you think I will survive? Are you alive? Fu Chenexai gritted his teeth and growled, Are you sure you are alive? There was nothing we could do when we were young. Uncle Wu had already made a mistake and we couldn't let you make the same mistake again. Mo Zhangxiang couldn't be saved. There was nothing we could do. Fifth uncle, I know you have a way. Even if I don't come back for a short time, you can still save Mo Zhangxiang, right? Fifth uncle, can you help me save my sister? Zhang Xiaoxiao begged Fu Chenexai. There is no way to save him, come back with me. Fu Chenexai pulled Zhang Xiaoxi away with a strong attitude. I won't leave, Uncle Wu. I will try even if there is a 0.1 chance. This is what we owe to my sister. Zhang Xiaoxi was struggling fiercely. Fu Chenexai gritted his teeth and was considering whether to knock her unconscious. The helicopter landed in the backyard of the villa, and the goddess was carried off the plane by Suyuan's men, and approached Fu Chenexai and the others. The goddess stared at Zhang Xiao, with a loving smile on her old face. Girl, you are back. Mother-in-law, please save my sister quickly. Even if it takes my life this time, I am willing to do anything as long as my sister comes back to life. Zhang Xiaoxiao knelt on the ground and begged as if he had seen a savior. Holding the goddess. Come with me. The goddess walked in front and said as she passed by Fu Chenexai. Everything is determined. If you can't stop her, just let her go. Fu Chenexai's body was shaken violently. Do you want her to give up her life? So what's the point of everything he did? Mother-in-law, do you have any idea? Everything is destiny, it's up to God to decide what to do. The goddess hunched over and walked towards the basement. Zhang Xiaoxiao wiped his tears and followed him. When he passed by Fu Chenexai, he looked at Fu Chenexai with extremely guilty eyes and said softly, Uncle Wu, I'm sorry. End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 532. Chapter 532. Chapter 532. Formation. Fu Chenexai held Zhang Shishi's hand with such force that the veins on his neck protruded. Xiaoxi, you can't do that. Uncle Wu will go crazy. Uncle Wu, I'm sorry. Zhang Xiaoxi broke away from Fu Chenexai's hand and followed the goddess into the basement. Fu Chenexai seemed to be stuck in place, motionless, but the tight outline of his face showed his current emotions. Fujinexiu, you owe us this, Su Yuan said as he passed by Fujinexiu. Basement. Zhang Xiao looked at Mo Zhangxiang, who was lying in the crystal coffin. His face had been cleaned up and he was neatly dressed. He didn't look like someone who died from an impact at all, but more like someone who was sleeping peacefully. But that look on his face, he was just too pale, his eyes were moist, and tears blocked his vision. Mo Jiangxiang's appearance was too familiar to her. It was the years she lay in the crystal coffin. During those years, Fujinexiu never talked to her without interruption for a day. She wanted to come back to life and hug him in every conversation. Fifth uncle comforted her fifth uncle and told her fifth uncle not to cry, but she could only be trapped there, hearing his voice and unable to do anything. Sister Zhang Xiao's hoarse voice called to Mo Zhangxiang, who was lying there. His tears were like broken beads, falling on Mo Zhangxiang's body one by one. Sister, thank you for risking your life to save me. She saved you because you are connected by blood and have a deep sisterly love. The goddess's hoarse but not unpleasant voice echoed in the basement. Zhang Xiao wiped his wet eyes, the tip of his nose was red, and his voice was hoarse. Mother-in-law, what can I do to save my sister? How should I cooperate with you? You look exactly like your sister back then. She also begged me to save you. The goddess seemed to be remembering something. Goddess, do you still remember that happened in the past life? Although Zhang Xiaoxiao knew about the ability of this goddess, he was still a little surprised to witness it in his previous life and in this life. The goddess smiled slightly and said, let's get started. Don't you want me to save your sister? What should I do? Go and sit in the middle. Only then did Zhang Xiaoxiao see that the entire basement was a formation diagram, and that she and Mo Zhangxiang were in the center of the formation. Zhang Xiao sat down where he was. Take off your shirt. The goddess walked slowly towards Zhang Xiao, holding a pen and cinnabar in her hand. Zhang Xiaoxiao cooperated with the goddess and took off her clothes and sat there. The goddess took a pen and dipped it in cinnabar to write and draw on Zhang Xiaoxi's body, which was soon covered by the paintings. After finishing the painting, the goddess's sharp nails cut open the skin of Zhang Xiaoxi's wrist, and fresh blood immediately flowed out. Something magical happened. The formation diagram on the ground began to light up, and then the goddess began to mumble. He said some words that Zhang Xiao couldn't understand, as if he was chanting a curse. Zhang Xiao couldn't understand what she was saying, but the blood that kept flowing out of her wrists made her feel a little dizzy. When Mo Zhangxiang rescued her, she didn't see this because she couldn't see, so she could only listen. She could only hear this sound that was like a spell, but in the end the goddess seemed to jump up. Zhang Xiao's body lost blood for longer and longer, but the goddess still continued to read, and in the end her vision gradually became blurred. Boom! Zhang Xiao lost too much blood and lay on the ground. The goddess stopped chanting and walked towards Zhang Xiao. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 533. Chapter 533533 Previous Life. The goddess took out a box of unknown toothpaste and smeared it on Zhang Xiaoxi's hand. The wound on Zhang Xiaoxi's wrist healed instantly. The bad fate of your ancestors has been lifted. After speaking, the goddess opened a door to the basement. Wen Runian also had a wound on his wrist. The goddess still applied the ointment on his wrist, and swayed some incense in his nose, and he woke up. Wen Runian opened his eyes and looked at the goddess. His lips were chapped and peeling. He asked politely and respectfully, "You are here. Child, you have grown up and have lived up to your parents' expectations, but the security around you still needs to be strengthened." The goddess was like a loving grandmother, thinking about her grandson. Wen Runian twitched his lips and smiled helplessly, "For the reason you know, the security around me is not that bad. You're a smart kid. It's not me who spoiled you. Go back quickly, otherwise there will be chaos at the presidential palace. The goddess helped him untie the rope. Mother-in-law, do you really not want to come and live at the presidential palace? I will protect your safety. My sister is still in trouble. When Runian really wanted to bring the goddess to live with him, and of course he also hoped he should save his sister. Members of the Wen family have two disasters in their lives. If they cannot survive this disaster, their life will be over. This is his second disaster, and it is now in the past. Old lady, I will naturally remember your sister's affairs. You don't need to worry. Seeing that you are so filial, I will definitely help you, but I can't interfere too much in matters of destiny. You have to know. It's natural. I won't make it too difficult for you, mother-in-law. As long as I can save my little sister's life. Well, you should leave quickly, otherwise some people will be restless. Remember what you promised your mother-in-law, you will keep this world safe, you know. Mother-in-law, this is the mission of the Wen family. I will do it well, otherwise I will be sorry for saving my life. The goddess waved her hand and looked at Mo Zhangxiang in the crystal coffin. Wen Runian's life could be said to be saved by her or not, but it was just a matter of one life for another. Just like Mo Zhangxiang lying in the crystal coffin, she only does a little bit of things and everything has to be done by themselves. The goddess sighed for a while and then tapped Mo Zhangxiang's forehead and said, "Child, come to life. The man outside has already died for you once. Do you want him to die a second time? His obsession, it's only because of you meeting like this, don't let him down." Zhang Xiao fell into a space on her side. It was the scene where Fu Chenexai was rescuing her. In the scene, the blood on Mo Zhangxiang's wrist had filled the formation. There was also Wen Runian, who also had blood on his hand. Wound, the goddess talks to Fu Chenexai. This is the first time I have used this spell. The spell is still mature. If Wen Runian's blood is shed, the country will be destroyed. I can't do this. I promised to save the lives of 2 people, but now I can only save 1. My mother-in-law took care of Wen Runian's life. My life is not important. She was my sister when she was a child. It is necessary to save her, Mo Zhangxiang said weakly. Mother-in-law, can't my blood be used? Fu Chenexai asked with scarlet eyes. No, you are not a real dragon, and you have no blood relationship with Zhang Xiao. You can't, unless you can find a girl who is the same as Zhang Xiao. End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 534. Chapter 534. Mo Ziwiyuan and Mo Mingguo were born sons without daughters. Where in the world is there anyone with the same blood relationship as Zhang Xiao? The goddess is right. If Wen Runian lost his life here, then what should the country do? If he saved Zhang Xiao's life but ignored the entire country, then he would be a sinner. But isn't Mo Zhangxiang's life fate? If Zhang Xiao woke up and knew that he had traded her sister's life for hers, she would definitely quarrel with him and hate him. You guys decide quickly, otherwise the formation will not work after the time has elapsed. Decide quickly, the goddess urged them to make a decision quickly. Mother-in-law, it's your life. Don't hesitate. Otherwise, if you miss the time to save the hour, then everything we do will be in vain. Mother-in-law, hurry up. Mo Zhangxiang's forehead was covered with sweat, and his face was pale. Mother-in-law, don't hesitate. We can't be sorry to this country. This is our own business. We can't involve the country. No, mother-in-law, hurry up. Mo Zhangxiang urged for the second time. Wen Runian didn't say anything, because he really couldn't make fun of the country. He could come to save Zhang Xiao because of Fu Chenexai. If he hadn't had a relationship with Fu Chenexai for many years, he wouldn't have come here. Fu Jianxiu glanced at Zhang Shishi, who was lying in the crystal coffin, then at Mo Zhangxiang, and made a difficult decision. Mother-in-law, wrap up Mo Zhangxiang's breath and find a way to save her in the future. Fu Jianxiu's words already represented his decision to give up Mo Zhangxiang and save Zhang Xiaoxiao. The goddess cut open Mo Zhangxiang's other wrist as soon as Fu Jianxiu made the decision. Mo Zhangxiang, who didn't have much blood to begin with, fainted instantly, and the goddess immediately wrote and drew on her forehead. With Mo Zhangxiang's blood, the magic circle was opened, and Zhang Xiaoshi's crystal coffin soared into the sky. The blood in the magic circle was fused by the crystal coffin, and disappeared. A dragon appeared faintly in the sky, and the dragon's eyes were half opened. He looked at the goddess and said, "Thuja, you are violating the destiny of heaven again. Do you know that the people you save will be punished by heaven? I know that they are willing to accept the punishment of heaven. There will always be some people in this world who are willing to fight against heaven, and the old woman is also willing to help them," the goddess said quietly. Shenlong sighed slightly and expressed his helplessness. "You, after so many years, you still can't forget it, but you have to go against God. You clearly know that your life was bought by him using all his spiritual consciousness. Yes, why don't you cherish it so much?" "I don't cherish it. It's because this is the life he bought for me. I have to live a good life and don't let him down. If we can't be together, then we must help more people be together." Tears flowed from the goddess's eyes. "To be with many people. Hey, I've waived it. This is the girl I'm going to save this time. I'll help you save it, but you also have to help me hide my aura, you know," Shenlong said helplessly to the goddess. "Okay, I know." This was their deal. Shenlong pulled off a piece of his own scales and placed it between Zhang Xiaoshi's eyebrows. When the scales completely disappeared between his eyebrows, Shenlong left. The goddess watched the dragon leave, then walked to Zhang Xiaoshi's side, drew a symbol with cinnabar, and dotted it with her own blood. "Child, wake up." End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 535. Chapter 535. Chapter 535. Previous life. After the goddess spoke to Zhang Xiaoshi, she handed Zhang Xiaoshi to Fu Jianxiu. "It will take time for her to wake up, so take good care of her." Fu Jianxiu held Zhang Xiaoxiao in his arms and asked the goddess cautiously and a little excitedly, "Is she alive?" Well, after the goddess finished speaking, she focused her eyes on the dying Mo Zhangxiang over there, and said to Fu Jianxiu, "Leave her to the person who is looking for her." Fu Jianxiu understood what the goddess meant, nodded, and left with Zhang Xiaoxiao in his arms. As soon as he left, Su Yuan's came in covered in blood and injuries. After seeing Mo Zhangxiang's tragic situation, he went crazy. He ran over and hugged Mo Zhangxiang, the tears flowing from his scarlet eyes were blood red. "Momo, you still help Fu Jianxiu. Have you ever thought about me? A sister you haven't seen for 10 years asked you to risk your life to save her. You saved her. What should I do now? Didn't you save her? Very good, if you don't wake up, I will kill her." Su Yuan said harsh words, crying like a helpless child, holding Mo Zhangxiang's body and not letting go. The goddess was watching the scene in the corner, her cloudy eyes narrowed, and she turned and left. Su Yuan's hugged Mo Zhangxiang and stayed there for who knows how long. The blood and tears in his eyes were almost dry, and finally he hugged Mo Zhangxiang and left. Zhang was carried home by Fu Jianxiu when she was young. Fu Jianxiu stood motionless beside her, his eyes never leaving, until he heard the thumping heartbeat, and his whole body tensed up. He was excited but also afraid. Believe. Listening to the beating of the heartbeat and slowly watching Zhang Xiaoshi's face return to a healthy look, Fu Jianxiu's vision was blurred, and tears had not appeared in his eyes for many years. Although Zhang Xiao's blood had returned to normal, he had not yet opened his eyes. However, One of his men over there came over to report, "Fifth Master, Su Yuan's people are here. This time he is completely crazy and brought a cannon." Fu Chenxiu had thought that Su Yuan's behavior would be too extreme, but he still ignored the extent to which he was crazy. "I'll go ahead with you in my arms. I'll go meet him. Fifth Master, the protection at home is not that good, and we don't have heavy weapons. Hold the hour and go first. Do you need me to give you a second order?" The subordinates looked at Fu Chenxiu, gritted their teeth, and hugged Zhang Xiaoxiao and left from the underground passage of Nangziyuan. They originally thought that Fu Chenxiu was a madman, but they didn't expect that there would be another madman like Su Yuan's. All of them were risking their lives, like cannons. When things appear, they simply don't pay attention to the laws of the country. The two madmen have no idea what the madman will look like in the end. Fu Chenxiu walked out of Nangzi courtyard and looked at Su Yuan's with a calm tone, "Take the things away and I will protect your life. Fu Chenxiu, if you kill my Momo, I will make your woman pay for my woman's life. It doesn't matter whether I live or not without Momo." Su Yuan's looked very ferocious. "You can't kill anyone with your hands. Now go and I can help you settle everything." "I owe you this," Fu Chenxiu said. Su Yuan sneered, "Then you die with me. Your woman is not dead yet, please keep her alive and I will find a way to save her." Momo's heartbeat has stopped. "Fu Chenxiu, you can't lie to me." Su Yuan's just wanted to kill Fu Chenxiu. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 536. Chapter 536. Chapter 536. Previous life. I'm not lying to you. At the last moment, I asked the goddess to keep her alive, although he is not a kind person. Mo Zhangxiang did it to save Zhang Xiaoxiao. Su Yuan's is the person Mo Zhangxiang likes. Then even if he wants to repay the favor, he still has to ask for Su Yuan's to live. What I need is for Momo to live, not to leave a trace of life like this. Su Yuan's no longer wanted to have any conversation with Fu Chenxiu, so he just started to do it. "Fifth Master, be careful." His subordinates watched Su Yuan's take action and directly blocked Fu Chenxiu behind him to block the bullet. Fu Chenxia's face was solemn, and the crease between his brows deepened. If Su Yuan's took action, he would have to fight back. Zhang Xiao was not awake yet. If he died and Su Yuan's went to kill Zhang Xiao, then everything he did would be in vain. "Fifth Master, fight back, otherwise we will have no way to survive." His subordinates are not afraid of death and do not want Fu Chenxiu to die. If Fu Chenxiu dies, it means that he did not protect him well. "Fight back." Fu Chenxiu said these two words resolutely. If Su Yuan's really died, then even if he owed 2 lives, he would bear all the sins. When his subordinates heard that Fu Chenxiu said they could fight back, they immediately began to fight back. Nangzi courtyard instantly became a battlefield. Although Su Yuan's had cannons, Fu Chenxiu had airplanes, and the snipers above had already aimed at Su Yuan's head. Su Yuan's eyes were scarlet and his face was ferocious. "Whoever kills Fu Chenxiu, all my worth belongs to him." Under a heavy reward, there must be brave men, especially the gunners who fired the cannon. They aimed a shot in Fu Chenxiu's direction. Boom! The sound of Nangziyuan being smashed resounded through the sky. Fu Chenxiu did not return to the secret passage in time and was blown into the garden. There was blood on his forehead. "Fifth Master, are you okay?" his subordinates asked worriedly about Fu Chenxiu's situation. They did not expect that Su Yuan's subordinates would really dare to fire in such a place. Once they fired, they would arouse the idea of the higher UPS. This is completely provoking the national prestige. Fu Chenxiu's head was buzzing, and he got up from the ground. Blood dripped down his chin and onto his clothes. The ash and blood stuck together, which looked very scary. Just start robbing him and leave him a life that can be saved. Actually, Fujinexiu didn't need to say that the snipers above had already opened the wooden warehouse and sniped the person who fired the cannon, and also beat Su Yuan's half to death. At Guanyang's house, Guanyang looked at Su Yuan's who had been rescued by him, and said to Fujinexiu next to him, "It's hard to explain to Wen Runian if you save him. If this person comes back to life, he will definitely seek revenge on you. You saved your own enemy. Have you woken up? All vital signs are normal, but he hasn't come back to life yet." Guanyang has always believed in science, but this time the deceased Zhang Xiao recovered his heartbeat, giving him a huge shock. A man who had been dead for several years, actually he still couldn't accept that he really survived in a non-scientific state. Aren't the vital signs normal? Why can't I wake up? Could it be that I have been lying down for too many years? Fujinexiu asked, staring at Guanyang. Guanyang looked at Fujinexiu, who looked anxious, and frowned slightly. "Boss, the goddess saved me when I was a child. You should ask the goddess when you will wake up, not me." She was picked up by Wen Runi, and Fujinexiu also wanted to find the goddess, but now he couldn't find the whereabouts of the goddess. End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 537. Chapter 537. Chapter 537. Previous life. Wen Runian had a closer relationship with the goddess than with him, so Wen Runian covered up the whereabouts of the goddess. The goddess told him that Zhang would wake up when he was young, but now it has been more than a day and there is no sign of waking up. His patience is getting worse. Of depletion. Guanyang looked at Fujinexiu's expression that was gradually changing, and finally sighed helplessly. "Boss, wait a minute. Either the goddess said he can wake up after a certain hour, then he can wake up. I'll keep watch." Fujinexiu turned around and left without thinking. Guanyang stopped him. "Boss, what are you going to do about the one in the morgue? She's not dead yet, so you should preserve Mo Zhangxiang just like you did when you were young." "Boss, you don't want to save Mo Zhangxiang, do you?" Guanyang asked Fujinexiu in a tentative tone. When he saw Fujinexiu nodding slightly, he almost fainted. After saving a Zhangxiang for only an hour, it's not enough. We also need to save Mo Zhangxiang, Wen Runian, the president of a country. He helped once because of his friends and Fujinexiu, who had been squeezed from the national treasury for several years. Only then did he save Zhangxiu, and again. She is Sister Xiao. Fujinexiu left a message and left to guard Zhang Xiao. Guanyang recorded Su Yuan's data and left. Not long after he left, Su Yuan's, who was lying on the hospital bed, opened his eyes, unplugged the infusion tube himself, pushed his body that was not stable at all, stumbled out of the room, and found in the ward where Mo Zhangxiang lay, the coffin that originally contained Zhang Shishi now contained Mo Zhangxiang. Su Yuan's climbed into the coffin and hugged Mo Zhangxiang, his eyes moist and red. "Momo, if you can't kill Fujinexiu, I'll accompany you, okay? You said yes, didn't you?" Su Yuan's was talking to himself there, and finally kissed Mo Zhangxiang affectionately, shot himself in the face, and was completely with Mo Zhangxiang. Our Zhang Xiao heard someone calling her when she was young. She followed the voice and ran all the way. "Garbage system, host." "Garbage system, is that you?" Zhang Xiao tried to ask. "Garbage system, yes, the host is me." "Garbage system, please send me back quickly. I don't want to stay here. I want to go back. Whether I go to modern times or in a book, I have to go back. Please think of a way," Zhang Xiao said anxiously. "Garbage system, host, I'm sorry I lied to you." Zhang Xiao means very confused. "Garbage system, host, if you haven't seen the following scenes, I can't send you back. When you finish reading the following content, you will know why you are here. Zhang Xiao was in a daze. Just when she was dazed, the scene suddenly changed and she returned to Guanyang's home again. This time she was still lying on the hospital bed, and Fu Chenxiao next to her looked like a completely different person. Hu Jia, it has covered the entire lower jaw, and the whole person is very decadent. It's been a week since I was young, why haven't you woke up yet? Uncle Wu is very scared. Fu Chenxiao's sad voice disappeared from the ward. Zhang Xiao was surprised. Wasn't she rescued? Why doesn't she wake up? Is the goddess incompetent? If she is a charlatan, then how can she have a heartbeat? Zhang Xiao said that he couldn't understand the current situation. When are you going to wake up? Then tell Uncle Wu, okay. End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 538. Chapter 538. Chapter 538. Previous life. Obviously no one answered Fu Chenxiao's words. Boss, you still need to go to the goddess to take a look. Xiao Xiao's condition is no different from that of a vegetative state. Guanyang gave Zhang Xiao a comprehensive checkup. He was in good health. He just thought he didn't wake up because he lay down for a long time. Come on, it doesn't look like that now. He failed to use scientific methods to revive Zhang Xiao, so he had no choice but to find the goddess who saved Zhang Xiao. I can't find her. Fu Chenxiao's veins popped out. He went to ask Wen Runian, but Wen Runian didn't tell where the goddess was. Is it possible that the boss didn't save the child at all? Guanyang guessed. Fu Chenxiao stared at Guanyang and said fiercely, impossible, how could he not be resuscitated? Why would he have a heartbeat if he was not resuscitated? Since I'm not the boss, tell me why I'm not awake yet. Guanyang has been very impetuous recently. Zhang Xiao doesn't wake up. He looks at Fu Chenxiao, who doesn't care about anything. And Nangxuan asks him in front of him every day why he's still awake. She will wake up. Boss, you are awake. Boss, Wen Runian has a letter for you. And Nangxuan originally came with the documents for Fu Chenxiao to sign, but someone sent this letter to him on the way. Fu Chenxiao opened the letter. It was not written by Wen Runian but written by the goddess. Zhang Xiao will wake up tonight, and you will die the day after she wakes up. This is a punishment from heaven. It is God's will to die for Mo Zhangxiang. Fu Chenxiao read the content, his deep cold eyes were unusually calm, and he said to Nangxuan, I will go to the company with you and have some things to explain. And Nangxuan's eyelids twitched wildly and he looked at Fu Chenxiao uneasily. Boss, what is written in the letter? Why do I feel like you are about to hand over a will? Fu Chenxiao did not doubt the words of the goddess. The goddess had said that he thought it would be a few years later, but he didn't expect it to come so soon. But it didn't matter as long as Zhang Xiao woke up. She was better off alive than anything else. I will die tomorrow. Don't doubt it. I will hand over Nangxuan company to Fu Ling. You have to help him well. When Guanyang wakes up when she is young, erase her memory and don't let her remember me. Let her live happily and take good care of her. Boss, are you kidding me? You are here so well, how could you die? And Nangxuan simply couldn't accept Fu Chenxiao's statement. A healthy, living person said that he was going to die tomorrow. How could anyone else say that he was going to die tomorrow? Do not believe. This is the price I paid for saving Xiao Xiao. My second brother will help me take good care of Xiao Xiao. You will take good care of her. Boss, that girl Xiao Xiao will know it sooner or later. Even if you save Xiao Xiao, wouldn't it be Mo Zhangxiang who died? How could boss kill you? Boss, is there no other way? Guanyang was much calmer than Nangxuan. When he saw Zhang Xiao's heartbeat restored, he began to accept these unscientific things. No, I have to live for a while, and I have to save my life. This is destined. Fu Chenxiao answered affirmatively. Guanyang frowned, pursed his thin lips, and was silent for a while before saying, "Go early and come back early." "It's not Guanyang, why don't you just ignore it and don't ask? Can the boss survive without the child? They can't live without each other, and Nangsuan doesn't believe in the nonsense of the goddess, he believes in the victory of man over nature." End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 539. Chapter 539. Chapter 539. Previous life. Now that Zhang Xiao has come back to life, all he needs to do is wake up. What kind of life does Fu Jianxiao need to pay back? Isn't this nonsense? Boss, Xiao Xiao has a heartbeat now. You can just find a goddess to wake up Xiao. You won't have to risk your life. And Nangsuan didn't believe that there was no one in the world with similar abilities to the goddess. People. It is true that there is no second person in this world who is more powerful than goddess. He wants to selfishly stay with Zhang Xiao for a few more years. He is looking for someone who is similar to goddess. The idea flashes in his mind. However, I did not keep this idea in my heart. I'll explain the work matters when I go to the company. Fu Jianxiao had already changed the topic. Boss. And Nangsuan knew that Fu Jianxiao had made a decision, but still wanted to dissuade him. Guanyang pulled him and shook his head. Fu Jianxiao went to the company to convene the general meeting of shareholders. The shareholders were all blown away. They handed Fu Jianxiao down in his prime and pushed a little kid up. The shareholders couldn't accept it no matter what. They could even say they protested strongly. "Mr. Fu, even if you want to repay the president, you shouldn't discuss it with us." "That's right, Mr. Fu, you can't make such a hasty decision. The selection of the new president must be voted on by us. Mr. Fu, even if the Fu family is handed over to Fu Ling for management in the future, it shouldn't be now. You are still in your prime. Even if Mr. Fu retired at your age, he was not your age. Mr. Fu, if there are no special reasons, we still hope that you will continue to serve as president. Mr. Fu, you can start studying with Fu Ling now. We support that, but it's really too hasty for you to do so now. Mr. Fu, can you tell us why you want to step down? Mr. Fu." The shareholders' meeting turned into a noisy mess. Fu Jianxiao's dark eyes swept across all the shareholders sitting there, and his voice was neither loud nor quiet, just enough for everyone to hear. "Without me, will the entire Fu family be unable to function?" Shareholders were quiet and silent for a moment. It didn't mean that Fu's business could not operate, but that without Fu Jianxiao, no one could predict whether Fu's business would become more and more glorious or decline in the future. But as long as Fu Jianxiao is here, Fu will definitely always be at the top. They don't want to hand over Fu's future to a little kid. Mr. Fu, that's not what we meant. The company can still operate, but I believe you know better than us how important a good decision maker is. Mr. Fu, is it too early for you to retire at your age? Mr. Fu, if Fu Ling has been studying with you for a period of time, we don't have to be so opposed to your retirement. Mr. Fu, we all remember clearly what Fu's situation was like when I pushed you here. We are also afraid that Fu will return to the same situation as before. Mr. Fu, there are still so many employees to support. We are also thinking about Mr. Fu, and we still hope you can understand. I will leave Luo Yi and An Nangsuan to take care of Fu Ling. Fu Ling will never let you down. I hope you believe in him and assist him," Fu Jianxiao said to the shareholders. End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 540. Chapter 540. Chapter 540. Previous life. Mr. Fu, even if you are a pensioner, you can still guide Fu Ling. The shareholders just wanted to hear one thing from Fu Chenxiu, that is, he would guide Fu Ling. However, Fu Chenxiu did not say that, which made them very uneasy. I'm informing you and not asking for your opinions. If you can't assist Fu Ling, then the Fu family can usher in the first or second major change. Fu Chenxiu crossed his hands and laid them lazily on the table, looking coldly. It is indeed like a sharp sword that sweeps through every shareholder. The shareholders' faces were all extremely embarrassed. Fu Chenxiu's words were the final announcement to them. They were more afraid of changing shareholders than changing leaders. Mr. Fu, we will assist Fu Ling. Well, the shareholders had to compromise in reply. When Fu Chenxiu heard the satisfactory answer, he moved his hands to let the shareholders go out. Lainan had already prepared all the documents that needed to be prepared. Mr. Fu, you just need to sign this. The new president of the Fu family is Fu Ling. Fu Chenxiu did not hesitate to sign his name, which included all his worth and 60% of Fu's equity. Lainan, Fu Ling will help take care of it. Okay. Lainan was the only one besides An, Guan, Zhao, and Yi who knew that Fu Chenxiu was going to die. Fu Chenxiu handed the signed documents to Lainan. He still needed to go to Fu's house, and the old man needed him to explain it. Fu family's old house. Dad. How long do you want to lie to me? How long are you going to hide it from me, including the ridiculous method you used to save Xiao Xiao? The old man did not curse loudly, but stared at Fu Chenxiu with his turbid and penetrating eyes. Fu Chenxiu's cold pupils shrank slightly, and Ranhe's tone was calm, as if he was saying something commonplace. I'm going to die, Mrs. Fu, I will hand it over to Fu Ling, you always have to give me guidance from behind. Mr. Fu's expression changed immediately. The old eyes he opened in the dream showed his shock. If you listen carefully, his voice had a vibrato. What do you mean by this? What did you do so well? Save the hour, I don't want to hide it from you. How could saving Xiao Xiao cost your life? I heard that your ridiculous thing was not very successful. Could it be that Xiao Xiao hasn't woken up yet? The old man asked. You'll wake up soon. Fu Chenxiu didn't say too much to talk about Zhang Xiaoxiu's situation. Mr. Fu frowned and looked at Fu Chenxiu's expression. His cloudy old eyes were already moist when he looked closely. However, the old man held back and replied, well, you can go ahead. Only the old man himself knows how difficult it is to say such a sentence. Only he can feel the pain of a white-haired person sending a black-haired person away. What he lost was his best son. Don't tell me what happened to me, just pretend that I have never appeared in her life. Okay, let's go, I'm tired. The old man turned around and looked outside, with his back to Fu Chenxiu, and warm tears were already flowing from his red old eyes. You take good care of yourself, and she will come back to stay with you when you are young, and she will fulfill her filial duty on my behalf. The old man's figure swayed slightly and did not answer Fu Chenxiu until he heard the sound of the door being closed. This gray-haired old man, who had lived in the wind and rain for most of his life, cried out. He had to lose a granddaughter at the same time. A son, both of whom he loves most. Is this his destiny? End of this chapter.